Y&R Spoilers reveal that Kyle Abbott is at a crucial crossroads in his life. After many ups and downs, he finally found a girl who made his heart flutter, Claire. Their love, though not yet completely solid, has begun to bloom, like a flower in the turbulent waves of life. They have shared sweet moments, long conversations about the future and about the things they both want to have together. And then, the day Kyle decides to ask Claire to move in with him, an important moment marking a change in this relationship, has come. However, behind the smiles and sweet words, the turmoil in Kyle's heart is not easily erased. In a short moment, insecurity reappears, like a latent monster gnawing at his soul. Kyle Abbott, a man who has always been ruled by emotions and impulsive decisions, is now in the middle of a conflict. He loves Claire, but can he truly love and live with her, or is it just a reaction to the troubles in his own life? Despite being married to Summer and going through a painful breakup, Kyle has not really shaken off the ghosts of the past. He cheated, lived in an unfulfilling relationship, and those mistakes still haunt him. Now, when he decides to ask Claire to move in with him, a seemingly normal decision, it raises questions about his maturity in love. How can someone who has failed in marriage, who has suffered from wrong decisions, suddenly ask someone to live with him without being fully prepared for such a relationship? This becomes even more complicated when Victor Newman, a character who is known to do everything to achieve his goals, begins to plan to sabotage Kyle and Claire's relationship. The appearance of Audra Charles, a woman that Victor may use as a card in his power game, is a big threat. Audra, with her beauty and charm, can easily lure Kyle into a love affair full of complicated situations, especially when he is still not completely clear about his feelings for Claire. In that context, the confusion in Kyle's heart comes not only from family relationships but also from what he wants to build for the future. As a person who is always haunted by past events, and with strong influences from his family, can Kyle overcome all difficulties to maintain his relationship with Claire? Or will history repeat itself when he continues to live in the shadow of his parents, when he is not really mature enough to decide important steps in life? By deciding to move out of the Abbott estate, Kyle seems to be looking for a freer life, away from the constraints of his family, but in reality, this decision is not easy. Moving to the Abbott pool house, a house located right on the Abbott estate grounds, is just a way for Kyle to hide the fact that he still cannot escape the influence of his family. Even when Kyle divorced Summer, he still has not found a real space to start over, to build a new relationship from scratch with Claire. The arguments between Kyle and his parents have never stopped, and that tension not only makes his life difficult but also pushes him into making bad decisions. Kyle thinks that he can build happiness for himself and Harrison, his son, by finding a new house, a new space, but in reality, the conflicts in the family will never completely disappear. Although he has hired a real estate agent to find a house with a large garden for Harrison, Kyle cannot let go of the Abbott estate, where all his family memories still linger. For Claire, their love is still too young, and the ambiguity in his decision to ask her to live with him only complicates the relationship. Kyle is still uncertain about what he wants in the future. Can he truly love Claire, or is he just looking for someone to fill the loneliness and emotional void he has experienced for a long time? Kyle and Claire's beautiful but fragile relationship will face a great challenge when Victor and his power schemes begin to take effect. Can Kyle hold on to his love and overcome all the temptations from the past and present, or will history repeat itself, causing him to fall into a vicious cycle from which he cannot escape? All of that is left unanswered, and the relationship between Kyle and Claire will be a challenging journey, with only time to reveal whether they can overcome it all. Kyle Abbott has always been a determined man, but also full of contradictions. His life, although seemingly perfect on the outside, is not without its challenges. Between the demands of his family and his desire for freedom, Kyle has always been straddling two worlds, trying to find a balance. This time, the decision to ask Claire to live with him is a big step forward in their relationship, but it is no less complicated. For his family members, especially Jack and Diane, things do not seem easy. They are always worried about Kyle's decisions, especially when he once again expressed his intention to leave the Abbott estate. The last time, when he wanted to move out and find a house with a large yard to make Harrison feel more comfortable, Jack and Diane were extremely angry. The relationship between them was strained, and Kyle was forced to reassure them that moving away would be a good thing for his son. However, no one in the family really felt comfortable with this decision. This time, when Kyle asked Claire to live with him, things went differently. He thought he would face fierce opposition from his family, but no, Jack and Diane did not panic like last time. Perhaps they had begun to accept that Kyle was an adult, and he had the right to decide his own life. But was Kyle really ready for such a big step in his relationship with Claire? The big question now was not only whether Kyle and Claire's relationship could survive living under the same roof, but also the external factors, the interference from the people around them, especially from Victor Newman. With his intelligence and power, Victor never missed an opportunity to manipulate the situation to his advantage. And this time, Kyle and Claire might not escape Victor's plan. Victor had noticed the contradiction in Kyle's mind. He knew that although Kyle wanted to leave the Abbott estate, he was still stuck between the past and the present, between his love for his family and his need for personal freedom. This was when Victor saw an opportunity to drive a wedge between Kyle and Claire, and he did not hesitate to use all his tricks to achieve his goal. Audra Charles, Victor's ex-lover, was a pawn that Victor could use. Audra never thought of living with anyone, and she always had a cunning charm. Even though her relationship with Victor had ended, Victor knew that Audra still had the ability to influence those around her, especially Kyle. Audra, with her charming appearance and sharp intelligence, could easily interfere with Kyle and Claire's relationship, when she saw this as an opportunity to exploit Kyle once again. Victor knew that to drive a wedge between Kyle and Claire, he needed to exploit the factors that Kyle was vulnerable to. And Audra is the strategic card that Victor can use to break Kyle's relationship. In this third time, Audra may not stop like before, but will try to use all her charm and power to convince Kyle that she is the right one for him, and not Claire. This makes the young and the restless fans start to question whether Kyle can stand up to the challenges that Victor and Audra bring. Will the love between Kyle and Claire be strong enough to withstand all the plots and manipulations from the outside, or will history repeat itself, and Kyle will once again be caught up in Victor Newman's power games? The combination of love and power, between personal and family decisions, between personal desires and responsibility to children, all create a story full of tension and surprises. Fans have reason to believe that this time, things will not be as easy as Kyle hopes. His relationship with Claire, while hopeful, is not without its challenges. And while they are trying to build a future together, the ghosts of Victor Newman and Audra Charles are still looming, preparing to create a major storm. Kyle and Claire's relationship will face severe challenges from many sides. But can love overcome all? Or will Victor's schemes ultimately bring it all crashing down? Time will tell, but this story is sure to be full of surprises and dramatic developments. Claire and Kyle Abbott's love story is facing a challenging crossroads. Although they have overcome the storms in their relationship, the difficulties from outside seem to be pushing them into a more difficult situation than ever. Since the beginning of their love, Claire and Kyle have faced doubts and prejudices from many sides, but this time, not only Victor Newman is the one who is hindering, but even Kyle's family members have spoken out against this relationship. In the Abbott family, Jack has always been the one to protect Kyle, but this time, his support is more fragile than ever. Jack, with his extensive experience and relationships in the industry, is always worried about the safety of his family company and his position in the constant battle between Abbott and Newman Enterprises. With the tense relationship between the two families, Jack cannot help but be on guard against any potential risks. And for him, Claire is a worrying factor. Jack's concern is not only the danger Claire may face in the war between the two companies, but also the possible intrigues from her side. Although Claire is the person Kyle loves, Jack cannot help but fear that she may have other motives for entering Abbott. Although she always insists that she has no intention of participating in Newman's schemes, Jack cannot help but think that Claire may be used by Victor Newman as a pawn in his plan to deceive Kyle and destroy the Abbott family company. Jack is not the only one in the family who has these concerns. Kyle's mother, Diane, has also begun to voice her disapproval of the relationship between Claire and her son. While Diane cannot deny that Claire has good qualities, she cannot forget Newman's past and the close connections between Claire and Victor. Diane fears that if Claire continues to stick with Kyle, she will be drawn into the political intrigue and toxic relationships that Victor is constantly manipulating. Kyle and Claire's relationship could inadvertently become the Abbott family's weak point, creating a vulnerability that Newman could exploit. This situation is further complicated by the fact that the war between Abbott and Newman shows no signs of ending. The attacks and constant competitive strategies between the two companies have been going on for years, and neither Jack nor Diane can ignore any risk that could threaten Abbotts' stability. Jack knows that letting someone as obscure as Claire into the company's inner circle could be an unacceptable risk. Although Claire shows no signs of suspicion, Jack is still uneasy at the thought that she could be drawn into Victor Newman's power games. Claire and Kyle's love is being put to the test. Can they overcome the doubts of their loved ones? Although Kyle is eager to protect Claire and insists that she has no intention of spying for Newman, he is also facing doubts from his own family. Especially when the Abbott family is under pressure from the war between the two business empires, Kyle's doubts and uncertainties are growing. Although Claire and Kyle may think that their love is strong enough to overcome any challenge, outside factors cannot be ignored. As Victor Newman and the Abbott family begin to pay attention to their every move, Claire and Kyle must make important decisions. Can they maintain their love and faith in each other while facing the separation of their loved ones? Or will someone, despite their efforts, ruin everything? What makes this story even more dramatic is that Claire seems to have no choice but to face opposition from everyone. Although she has proven herself through her actions and dedication in her relationship with Kyle, doubts are always present. And if Kyle's family cannot accept her, will this relationship be strong enough to survive? Kyle and Claire's love will face an extremely difficult test when intrigue, suspicions, and family relationships begin to interfere. The important thing now is whether Kyle has enough determination and perseverance to protect the woman he loves, and whether Claire can face these challenges without harming herself and their love. In a constant battle between family, company, and love, Claire and Kyle's love story will be a journey full of tension and drama. When every decision can be a turning point that determines the existence of this love, the audience will have to wait and see if the love between them is strong enough to overcome everything.